that grabs the pussy loses the world.
Good evening. My name is Juli, and I'm fucking nasty. Now, I am not nasty in the basic way. I don't have the traditionally nasty parts. No womb or one of those things. You know, a legislator magnet. Well, okay, I have got a legislator magnet. It's just a different kind, a more prominent one. So why am I here tonight reading at a Planned Parenthood function? I can't ever have a pregnancy, much less terminate one, and that's all they do, right? Wrong. Aside from comprehensive reproductive health services, general women's and men's sexual health care, including helping people create babies, along with life-saving health screenings, Planned Parenthood is an incredibly strong ally to the transgender community, offering free, comprehensive, trans-related health care in a space that is as safe as can be. And for all of these reasons, we cannot allow Planned Parenthood to go away. We all understand that, which is why we are here tonight. About 35 hours into what we must also understand is one of the most devastating homegrown terrorist attacks ever committed in this country. The internationally sponsored theft of the Oval Office by a man who bragged that his wealth and celebrity had allowed him to walk up to women and just grab them by the pussy. I'm just waiting for the day that I get to enjoy the shocked expression of one of his supporters who feels emboldened enough to come up and grab my pussy. But okay, all sarcastic rhetoric aside, for now. What the fuck? How in 2017 is it still considered so dishonorable and vile to be confident, strong, and female? Surely we have progressed beyond the expectations and judgments about women that weighed down our mothers and our grandmothers, haven't we? For anyone who believes we have, just take a cursory glance at the problems facing trans women today. And you'll see that for all of the individual freedoms women have gained, the underlying dynamic between the sexes hasn't changed one bit. This is immortalized in a classic taunt, which I am sure is still bandied about on the playground: boys rule and girls drool. Men are strong and women are incapable of real strength without losing the delicate essence of femininity it is our responsibility to uphold. Power, you see, is a poor substitute for fertility. And if women would just understand that, all would be right with the world. And so when someone finds out that I have voluntarily given up my birthright of superiority to become something less, the default human emotion seems to be one of disgust. Because we are less, right? It's a lesson we begin teaching to our children when they're barely able to get their heads wrapped around what it means to be human, much less what it means to be a boy or a girl. We teach it so well, in fact, that many girls grow up to be women who teach it to their sons and daughters. It's in the attitudes about being that we impart to our children and in the language that we teach them. We've all seen this, I'm sure. A little boy and a little girl are playing and the boy falls down and hurts himself. Some adult nearby, in response to the boy's crying, will invariably say, "Don't be such a girl." Not only does this teach the little boy that he is somehow supposed to be stronger and better than the little girl, it also teaches the girl that she is something less than the boy. And it sets her on a lifelong journey of trying to discover how to mitigate an inferiority that is apparently and plainly evident even to the people who love her. We've all heard this too, in how we teach children how to describe themselves. A girl who embraces her stereotypically masculine side and is tough or loves sports or other typically boy activities is called a tomboy. And we say that not only without any judgment, but sometimes even with pride. So we have neutral to positive language for a child with a vagina who is seen to emulate a child with a penis. But we have no neutral to positive language to describe the inverse. To describe a child with a penis emulating a child with a vagina. That child is a sissy, a fag, well, I'm sure you've heard all the terms. Believe me, I've heard them a million times, because there is a visceral negative reaction to a boy who wishes to nurture, to be feminine, to not want to grunt and grab his dick proudly and spit on the ground, and we teach that reaction to our children in the language that we teach them. English speakers like to joke about how we don't make the same mistakes other languages do by assigning gender to genderless objects. My favorite is Eddie Izzard talking about how we might have decided not to do that in English. He imagined two Saxons discussing tableware. Masculine, feminine, or just a fucking spoon? But we do assign gender to things that are genderless, don't we? If you are courageous, you have balls. But if you are timid, you are a pussy. Think about that. To be fearless is to be seen as possessing male genitalia. But if you appear to be frightened or cautious, you become female genitalia. These are both human characteristics, bravery and fear, possessed at various times by all humans, regardless of sex. And yet we have allowed our language to assign them a gender based on negativity or positivity. We are nasty and we are weak. Oh, and sluts. Let's not forget to be sluts. Last year, a Republican cultural warrior in the state of Montana introduced HB 365, which would have in effect made the wearing of yoga pants in public illegal. As a rule, I never wear yoga pants myself. It's not that I have anything against them out of principle or even as a matter of taste. Some women don't wear them because they fear showing camel toe. I have the whole hoof. However, should I be fortunate enough one day to get a badge of my own, I'm gonna get me some yoga pants and wear them everywhere. For one thing, I've got a pretty decent ass for an almost 50-year-old broad. More importantly, though, I should not, as a woman, have to be more conscious of my wardrobe than I found it necessary to be when I lived as a man. Invariably, when restrictions in school or the workplace are placed on wardrobes, those that apply to women and girls are much more rigid, more puritanical. They stem from a depressingly generally accepted moral code, itself an aggregate of outdated belief systems comprised of middle-aged chivalric ideals, evangelical coidophobia, and fin de siècle hysteria over exposed ankles or, smelling salts please, necks. It is a standard which reinforces the seemingly contradictory ideas that women are both weak and inferior to men and need their protection, and so they should stay covered up, but also that women are by nature foul seductresses whose effortless machinations grant men blanket exculpability, and so they should stay covered up. A few years ago, I took place in a topless march here in Phoenix, organized by GoTopless.org and held every year around the anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And it's held to highlight the legal disparity between men and women when it comes to how they may appear in public. Men may go around without shirts without fear of reprisal, but for women, it's a different story. In Arizona, for example, unless a woman is using her breasts according to manufacturer's instructions, she is guilty of indecent exposure if she takes them out in front of someone and is, quote, reckless about whether the other person, as a reasonable person, would be offended or alarmed, unquote. In other words, a woman may bare her breasts, but if someone complains, she is liable for prosecution for not covering them back up. And it doesn't stop with breasts either, or camel toes. A Texas father wrote in despair last year about his daughter being flagged by school officials for a wardrobe violation. And the offending outfit was a spaghetti strap dress. And his daughter, she was 5. 5. Just starting kindergarten. And along with how to print her name and tie her shoes, this little girl must be indoctrinated to slut-branding, to the fact that there is something inherently nasty about her body, forced along with her peers to take ownership of our inability to evolve past a culture that teaches boys excuses instead of self-control, or better yet, that girls are not simply sandwich-making vaginas with legs. We gather tonight because that little girl deserves a brighter future, one in which the whole of who she will become is the only yardstick by which she will be measured. We gather because she and all the little girls who are just beginning to understand how society views them deserve to inherit a world free of the fear and degradation that we have been taught to take for granted. We gather because we, my friends, are the hand that grabs back.